The second one was the easy one. He's like, I'm willing to be a voice into your life only if you're willing to be a voice into mine. Wow. And I'm like, no problem, because I'll never have anything to say. I seriously thought that. I have nothing to say to you. This the easy 10-4, I'll take it.
Right down. Oh, what's the strangest food combination that you love?
Okay. Let's think on this one. Strangest food combination. One thing I've kind of made, it's a normal snack. It seems now around a lot of our church people are Ruffles potato chips with Texas Pete hot sauce.
Oh.
On a paper plate, which makes them taste better somehow.
I loathe Ruffle potato chips.
What?
I don't know
Best
what
potato chip in the
I don't know what
world.
it is.
The salt.
But I get it's just like, why do I want to eat a farm? Like that's what I'm eating. Like a small little farm for an ant is what I feel like I'm eating. Like
they're the best.
I don't know.
The texture,
we were talking about the same thing. Yeah, like the little like
they're like the wavy.
Yeah, no, that's not me. Also
blue
found out
and white bag Ruffles, man.
Oh
yeah,
goodness. The plain,
dude. Wavy Lay's is a good second place to put your hot sauce on top of, and then you just...
I try to love you, and then you say stuff like that. I also found out you're allergic to shrimp yesterday. Yeah. That is awful.
It is awful. But I still eat them.
Dude, that's just...
But so I've never had airway issues, never, ever.
Right.
I ate them my whole life until I was about 16. I started having really adverse reactions.
So you're just like eating shrimp one day, and you're like...
I was eating jambalaya and I did not know what happened, but I looked like, what's that movie?
Hitch?
Yeah, I looked like Hitch.
Oh yeah. That's what it looked like.
It looked like I got beat up essentially. And so it took us a while. We tracked it to like, how is it shrimp?
You just keep like not the sausage.
Correct.
It
was about like that.
Feel good.
And then I have less and less reactions, but every once in a while I'll feel it coming on.
That's a little wild, but people still eat at Shoney's. So, I mean, at the same time, what are you going to do?
I love shrimp. How can you quit?
Oh, I love shrimp.
There's no way I could quit eating shrimp.
I would love shrimp. Yeah. I just walk around Benadryl. All right. So we are answering today your questions that you sent in. We have a few from almost 2 months ago now. It's been a little while because we've been in Battle Rattle talking about spiritual warfare. All of that kind of stuff just came through Easter. We're filming this before Easter, but I imagine it was wonderful.
Yeah, I'm going to assume it was a great day.
Just going to say in faith, what a day that the Lord did.
Yeah. So at the time of this recording, Easter is the next Sunday.
Correct.
It's right ahead of us, which I'm very excited about.
Yeah, I'm stoked.
I'm excited I just feel like God wants to do something. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I know that sounds, maybe you'd expect that out of a pastor. Right. I just have a sense that like some people are going to show up to our churches for the sake of tradition and actually encounter the hope of Jesus. And I'm faith-filled about it.
Where are you going? So this would be the 27th. Is it a standalone? Because you're out of Battle Rattle, right?
So we're kind of like one-offing Easter, and then the last week of the month we're going to finalize Battle Rattle.
Oh, okay. And then we go into Good News.
Yep.
In May. Okay, which I know you are stoked about. And we're going to do a whole bunch of stuff here and got some special stuff even planned for the early month of May for this podcast. So that'll be really fun. So I know all you guys are kind of watching and staying put and commenting and all that kind of stuff. But your questions that you sent in, we're going to try to get to as many as we can over the next 2 episodes.
We're going to the deep end of the pool today.
Yes, really good. There was like not a single question. It was like, oh, yeah, that's simple.
Yeah.
Or
I had to study for some of this. I did.
But I love that. I love that this is truly people's hearts. It's almost, for us, it's almost like a softball. Like, okay, here's where people are at.
Yes.
Here's what people are going through. This is what they're facing. The first one is this. Is there any advice on what to do in your waiting period? I feel like I should be working on what I prayed for. I love that line right there. I feel like I should be working on what I prayed for, but a lot of times I'm praying for a sign that what I'm thinking of doing is the right path. It's hard to know what the right path to take is, especially on big decisions. Absolutely. So what would you say? Is there any advice to someone that's in this waiting period? What would you tell them?
So a couple of thoughts I have. And first, credit to my brother-in-law, Derek, who led our prayer service this morning. Mm-hmm. So you could go back to...
We can tag it.
Yeah.
We can tag
okay,
it
great.
Yep.
Yeah. And what an incredible, 10, 15 minutes worth of teaching that he gave this morning. Super powerful. And, he talked about faithfulness over fruitfulness. And too oftentimes, I would say that you and I are probably as guilty as anybody in the world on sometimes overemphasizing fruitfulness 100%. And not faithfulness. And 100%. He made these great points that one day we're going to stand before the Lord and he is not going to say, well done, good and fruitful servant. Wow. He is going to say, well done, good and faithful servant. My encouragement to you in the waiting is that's a tough place, especially with those big decisions. Yep. It's not simple things like, should I go to Target or Walmart? Those are, it's like, should I take this job that's going to move my family to another 100%. City?
I was going to say, a lot of times that stuff deals with money. I don't know if that's the question, but a lot of times it affects your what's the word I'm looking for? Lifestyle?
Lifestyle, career path, family impact. Those are really, really big things. And so my encouragement, the question was, what do you do in the waiting? Yeah. And I would encourage you to focus on being faithful. Yeah. Like faith. All right, God, what did you call me to today in being faithful? Yeah. The best advice that I can give is, and I think we've actually talked about this a little bit before. I really believe that there are times that God allows us to just be empowered to make our own decisions. I'm a parent. I have 3 awesome kids, and two of them are adults now. So let's just say we'll use Carter because he's awesome for us. Not them other 2. Sorry. We'll just go with my son. I love the guy. Yeah, that was not sorry, girls. That was not a shot. But let's just say that Carter, who's an adult and a business owner, is got to make this decision in regards to his business or life or whatever. And then he's asking me, Dad, what do you think? This, that, or the other, I got option A or B. There is most often times where I'm going to probably be like, I don't know, man, it's up to you. Do whatever you want. Like I'll back your play on A or B. Just go for it. However, if one of his options I thought was detrimental to his well-being, to his business, to his spirituality, I would certainly voice up and be like, whoa, hang on. Let's talk about this. Let's get into some scripture about this. Right. Let's pray about this. Here's my advice, whatever. Essentially, he's an adult. He can do whatever he wants. But I would be way more vocal if I thought one was detrimental versus the other. But if it's like, I don't think either's bad. Right. Then I'm probably going to be way less vocal on my, I'll just support them. So it's like, hey, option A, great. I got your back. Option B, great. I got your back. I honestly think that God does that with us more than we probably think. That he's like, look, you're my kid. I love you, take off. And I've said Joshua chapter 1:9 is a verse that, I know I've talked about that before on the show, but like, so God's speaking to Joshua. He's telling him, fear not, don't be afraid, take courage because I am with you wherever you go. And sometimes I think he's like, I'm with you wherever you go, this or that. Right. And so I know that somebody who's probably sitting at a crossroad of a major decision, honestly, that probably doesn't feel, you're probably not like, oh, thank you. You're probably more like, I feel as stuck as I was before.
Thank you for frustrating me more.
Yeah. But again, I think just digging down to faithfulness. God, am I being faithful? If I make this decision, is there threats there? And I honestly think it's okay to ask God for signs. I think he speaks to some of his children that way. Right. Great. And so try it. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not opposed to, I know some people that God tends to speak to them through these signs. I mean, that's cool. He does not tend to speak to me that way. Yeah. But anyway.
I think, I was trying to think if that's how, a lot of times I'll see God leading me in something if something keeps coming up or I have peace in it.
That's a really good indicator.
So like, that's like if something keeps coming up, and not that necessarily goes for the person that's in waiting, but just for whatever God's speaking to more, or especially in our case where we're consistently almost every day of the year, Lord, where are we going as a church? What am I speaking on? How do you want, like, that's what we're so much in, that something will keep coming up and it's like confirmation, but then also it's like the peace side of it. I would tell somebody that's in the waiting, something that Sydney Hobbs has just poured into me so much here recently, especially as champions looking for a building and all that kind of stuff, is just be like, can you see it? Can you see it? And is there anything I can do right now that moves me closer to it? So like for me, like I work in, I do facilities, which is a nice word for like cutting grass and landscaping and palm trees and that kind of stuff. So if like, I'm already thinking, all right, what's the landscaping going to look like? What do I want? How are they doing these flowers? Because I like this. And what type of sign, and that's not moving the needle at all for us to buy a piece of property or buy a building. But I think it just has my trust more in God that, all right, we're one day closer.
Yeah, that's good.
We're one day closer. We're one day closer. And I'm just trusting him. And then I'm a big proponent on what is the last thing he told you to do to make sure you're doing that.
That's a great point.
Like if anything, like if he said, do this as the last thing he told me to do, I want to make sure I'm doing that, because sometimes I'm like, yeah, but I'm going to do this. And it's like, no, let's do this. Cause he's probably, just from what I've seen in my own life of doing this and not doing it, he's probably going to want to grow me in that season that I have no idea. Even though I think I'm waiting for this, he's actually doing, does that make sense?
Yeah,
I feel
absolutely.
like I'm kind of talking too high of like 30,000 foot.
No. I think that makes a lot of sense. I also would say maybe quickly on this one too is, the whole idea of like a pros and cons list, but I would maybe more like what gets threatened. You know what I'm saying? So like, if this decision is going to put the health of my family at jeopardy or anything like, I would really be thinking about like what's the greater value, might be good ways to sort of filter some things. And I understand, by the way, what I'm suggesting right now might be less like hearing from God, but maybe God has given you the ability to do some reasoning. You know what I'm saying? It's like, okay, sure, more money's great, but how does that affect my kid leaving middle school right now? And what's a greater value?
100%.
Those are maybe some filters that I would be trying to implement into my life if I was sitting in that spot.
Yeah, a great question. Whoever sent that in.
Yeah,
absolutely
really
great question. All right, here's another. I do love the line too. I feel like I should be working on what I prayed for. Small things. Find something small to do. If you feel like it, that's probably the Spirit of God leading. Could be. I don't know. I know it's a little more because we don't know the exact situation. But all right, let's move on to the next one. Why do so many people that live sinful lives get rewarded so frequently? Why are some people doing others so wrong, but yet can look so unfazed? As a Christian, I see the outcomes of poor decisions, so I don't make them. But in some people's cases, they know that what they are doing, You're good. I'm the worst person to read this. I never finished hooked on phonics. How do people, they know they're doing the wrong thing. How do people claim they walk with God, but still treat people terribly and yet seem so happy? So I think a little assumption here is obviously there's some type of hurt here, frustration here. There's something going on. Why do sinful people get that? But then at the same time, maybe it sounds like someone that says they're walking with God is doing something wrong. So there seems like a lot here. What would you tell them?
Yeah, it sounds like a couple of things there. Like, the first half of that question sounds a little bit like, why do people seem to not have negative consequences when they're living like worldly?
Right.
And then the second part almost seems like some people claim they're Christians and they're not living. And I would say just real quick to that, like that's between them and the Lord, man. And there are hypocrites everywhere. 100%. We're probably all guilty of being hypocrites at some measure, at some points 100%. In our lives. But there are some people that I think for the majority of the listener, you and I, when we are hypocrites, we're not trying to be. It's a learning curve. It's a mistake. It's an error. It's part of discipleship.
We're not trying to hurt somebody.
Correct.
We're not trying
Our
to be
heart
evil.
is to grow in the
100%.
Lord. Conversely, there are other people that they just don't really care. It's maybe Jesus isn't really their Lord. They are.
Right.
They want all the benefits of Christianity.
100%. And there's, oh my goodness.
It's everywhere.
It's just everywhere.
It is what it is. So that is a whole different thing. And I would say as frustrating as that is, and it is, you just have to that's between them and the Lord, and you have to kind of release them to the Lord with it, I think. And again, who knows, this person could be talking about somebody that lives in their home.
Right. And they see it. Right.
Family member they see every holiday or a coworker, and those are harder. But on the front half there, I would say, we've been talking, you and I and our church have been talking spiritual warfare. Anytime we are attempting to advance God's will in our lives, the enemy is going to fight back. 100%. So that's what we've been talking about as a church for weeks now. And if you're not trying to advance God's will in your life, why would Satan push back?
All right.
So to the person who's trying to walk out God's will and facing this spiritual adversity, looking over at the person who is not trying to walk out God's will and everything seems to be going great, it's like, well, why would Satan fight that?
Right.
In fact, he would
good.
probably just go reward that.
Right. That's a good
So, yeah, you know what I mean? And that's an unfortunate.
Yeah, it's kind of, and then Satan can use.
Do your thing, man. You're good.
He can use a nap. that brought tears to my eyes. Sorry if I was in your headphones and I just did that.
Coughed in your ears.
Sorry.
No, you're good, man.
I don't know what it was, but he was alive.
He was alive.
Anyhow.
Tastes great.
One of the things I think Satan can do as well is he can push those buttons on you to get more and more frustrated.
Yeah.
Like you're trying to serve God and look how it's not working out for you and look how this is happening. So why even do that? And it can almost turn that he can use that. And I think you talked about sometimes Satan doesn't do as much in front of you as he's whispering behind you on one of the episodes here recently. And that's so true. One of the things I wrote down, I heard a pastor tell me this one time is when I first gave my life to Christ, I was trying to do everything right. And I thought of this when whoever sent this in, I was like doing Dave Ramsey too. Like that's the level of Christian I was. Like,
yeah, sure.
I was doing Dave Ramsey.
I got envelopes.
I had the most awful 1989 Toyota Corolla, I think is what it was. Man, this thing was
gold emblems on it and stuff.
Yeah, you couldn't turn it off to like put gas in it. It had the old seat belts that like when you open the door, it opened. Like that's how old it was, right? Like, so. Yeah, and it was no AC. Mm-hmm. I'm literally driving to go serve at the church. And I'm right here is when I was going to church at Palm Coast. I was right there at 207-95 because we lived behind the movie theater, but I was going down Palm Coast. And I pull up, and this thing, she's like, just the whole thing shaking, right? I'm pouring sweat. I would have to change outfits. That's probably where it happened. Now I got in the habit of that, pouring sweat. This dude pulls up next to me. Have I told this story on this? Or maybe no. I've told it in church. This dude pulls up next to me. This time it was right when the Nissan Titans came out.
Oh, yeah.
This thing was sexy, son. Like just absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah.
And he rolls down the window and it looked like a Radio Shack fog machine. Now this is before like marijuana, all that was legal. So like he's just biggest blunt, looked like a daggone potato. This thing was so big. And I'm sitting there like sweating, dying, listening to worship music.
Headed to church.
Heading to serve at a church on like a Monday night, Tuesday night. Like that, like, man, I turned on 95 and I'd like to say I like floored it, but I didn't. It was like,
right.
Just so upset. Like, how does that guy have that? Mm-hmm. And I'm doing everything right. And it bothered me so much. And I remember what a pastor told me, and I wrote it down for this. God's patience with people is not the same as his approval. His patience with people is not the same as his approval. And what it has spoke to me through the years has been that, you know what? God's been patient with me.
That's really
when he
awesome.
shouldn't have been. And just because I was trying to do this, and I don't know that guy's story, I don't know what's going on. But in the moment, I felt less than. And God's like, it helped me tremendously. Yeah. And so that's what the pastor kind of encouraged me with.
So good. And I would, look, the fallacy of thinking because I'm being obedient to the Lord and I'm doing right things, that right things will happen to me. The fallacy in that thinking is taking away from the preeminence of the Lord in our lives. And so it is not, I don't earn anything from the Lord. I am given by grace everything from him. And so when the enemy is in our ear saying, you do all these things, don't you deserve? And the answer is no, I deserve hell for my sin. That's what I deserve. Yeah. But there was this great exchange of grace imputed to me, righteousness to me because of my sin toward him. And I would call the enemy out on that right there. You know what I mean? The frustration with other people, like what the heck? You know what I mean? That's a real thing because we're human beings. So let's 100%. Don't act like this stuff doesn't bother us. You know, what was the statement? His patience?
God's patience with people is not the same as his approval.
That is solid.
And it helped me, and it's helped me more. I don't know if it helped me as much in the moment or years later when I knew God was being patient with me. Yeah. When he shouldn't have been. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's really good.
So man. I think that helped me more. And I never got a Nissan Titan either. So God bless America.
Worst financial decision of my life was a Nissan Titan.
No way. I didn't know that.
Bought a brand new one in 2008.
Were you the one that was next to me? Was that you?
For sure not. Yeah, that's we don't even want to get into that story.
Dude, what a plot twist that would have been. It was like, dude, yeah, that was me.
Was it candy apple red? No, I'm just kidding.
Actually, it was black and silver. I remember it
Mine
very
was white.
clearly.
So,
was it?
Yeah.
Oh,
I have a thing for white vehicles.
I wrote down this too, and I don't know if this is the right one. Either Psalm 73 or Psalm 78 David is talking exactly about that. I should have checked that. My bad. Maybe it's Psalm 73. Psalm 78 is talking about the Israelites in the wilderness. We've been talking so much about wilderness. So maybe it's Psalm, just read them both. I'm sure they're both good.
Yeah, it won't hurt you.
Watch, that'll be the ones like God break the teeth in their mouth.
Right.
The person will be like, man, I feel God in this scripture.
Yeah.
All right, here's the next one. What is the difference in losing faith and losing hope? What's the difference in losing faith and losing hope?
That's a good one. We talked about this one a little bit prior, and I feel like you had some pretty good thoughts. I think start with it if you would.
So here's a few things I wrote down on this. Losing faith would be walking away from God. Like to me, that's the ultimate, like when you have lost faith and trust in God, you're completely walking away from him. Losing hope is feeling stuck, but you still believe in who he is. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So like hope is that eager anticipation for it. It's the best description I ever heard for it is that Christmas Eve night as a kid, especially for us watching in America, like the excitement. And you know what I'm saying? Like, tomorrow, this is happening. When you wake up and it's here. And like, honestly, for me, Sunday morning with Easter, I will wake up with this massive, eager anticipation, nervousness, because I don't know how it's all going to play out.
Right.
But this massive, eager anticipation of it's going to be a good day.
Yes.
It's something good. Does that make sense?
For sure.
So it's like, I think it's that. I think life sometimes does punch you in the hope gut.
Yes.
Where you're like you're trusting. And you're hoping, and Lord, you're thanking him for it. Lord, I thank you in advance. It's going to happen. But then life happens and punches you right in the mouth. Yeah. And you might be down. You might be like not out, but you might be down, just feeling what Paul said, persecuted, crushed, all of that kind of stuff. But like, God, at the end of the day, I know you're still good. And I know you're still there. I think that if you lose faith, it's walking away. But that hope might be like, I don't know how this is going to turn out in every way I thought it was going to. Yeah. It didn't, but you're still good. And I'm still going to trust you, even through the pain, confusion, frustration, whatever it might be. Yeah,
I honestly think you answered it. So I don't even know how much more I can add. I think that faith is trusting God regardless of outcomes. Yeah. Like if God, I trust you no matter what, even if the outcome is the worst, in my opinion, or whatever. I say or whatever a lot, I noticed.
Did you?
All the time.
Do you?
Too much. Now everybody's going to hear it. I shouldn't have called myself for it. But trusting in the sovereignty of the Lord, that he is in control no matter my circumstances, actually will strengthen my hope in him too, you know? And one of the most underpressed scriptures in all the world, like it just doesn't get attention like maybe it should, is the end of Hebrews chapter 11. Mm-hmm. Hebrews 11 is nicknamed the Hall of Faith.
Right.
If you go into your Bible and start reading it, you get the definition of faith, and it talks about the evidence of things hoped for. So like faith and hope and all that is all in the front part of that. Then you get these awesome like snippets, I guess I would call them, of these incredible people of faith. By faith, this person, this, and this happened. Excuse me. By faith, this and that. By faith, and you just like these. It's like walking. That's why they call it's like the Hall of Fame. You're walking down, looking at these stories, and then in the very end of Hebrews chapter 11, about 36 verse, I think it is. You get that. You want me to read it? Let's just read it.
Whatever you want to do, buddy.
Let's do it, man. Let's just go to the Bible real fast.
I do love it. Also would love, Dylan, can you turn the air on, buddy? I feel like my head's getting a little sweaty. It got warm in here quick.
So Hebrews 11.
Mine opened right to it because I read it all the time.
This is my sweet new Bible that I got.
What verse?
Yeah, let's go to 36.
Okay.
All right, let's go back to like 35. Mine has a paragraph break in the middle of 35. Anyway,
really? That's weird.
I'm going to start right
mine
there.
Does too.
Okay, so we'll start right there where it says, so you've got, by the way, context, you have all these by faith this person, by faith this, you got all that, you just ended that. And then you get this. But others were tortured, refusing to turn from God in order to be set free. They placed their hope in a better life after the resurrection. Some were jeered at and their backs were cut open with whips. Others were chained in prisons. Some died by stoning. Some were sawed in half. Think of that for a second. Others were killed with the sword. Some went about wearing skins of sheep and goats, destitute, oppressed, and mistreated. They were too good for this world, wandering over deserts and mountains, hiding in caves and holes in the ground. All these people, verse 39, earned a good reputation because of their faith, yet none of them received all that God had promised.
Yeah.
And this is a faith and hope both listed in here.
Yeah.
And this is a reality that like sometimes it just doesn't go like we hope, but these people maintained faith that in all circumstances, no matter what, I will cling to the sovereignty of the Lord and trust that he knows better than me. And that is a much easier thing to read or say than to live.
100%.
But that's the word right there.
You know, I was thinking too with these people, one thing that if you go through all of them that they all believed at the end of the day, God was good.
That's right. That is exactly right. I think
at the end of the day, man, that has to be just a core belief of he's a really good dad.
That he knows.
And he knows best.
Just knows best. Yeah. Even a statement that I was in a meeting this morning and one of our awesome staffers, Catherine, she reminded us of this, that when you don't understand the hand of God, you can always trust the heart of God.
That's good. That's really good.
That's faithfulness right there. Like, I don't get it, but I trust you.
Yeah, because you can lose hope, man. You could be like just emotionally exhausted, but still, like at the end of the day, my anchor's in him.
That's right.
Right? Does that make sense?
Oh, it makes total sense.
All right, let's go to the next one. We got a few. We could probably, if we answer this one in 4 minutes, we could probably get through half of them on this.
Nice.
Answer this one more, and then
cool.
We'll see. So, this person says, I listen to sermons, read my word, and go to church. That's good. One big thing I'm lacking is a mentor to talk to and guide me in my faith journey. How can I find a mature Christian that would be willing to foster that type of relationship? Great question.
I'd want to just applaud the heart here.
Yeah.
So stinking much. Way to go. Because what that person said is, I long to be discipled.
Yep. That's a great point.
Love it so much, because every single one of us need to be discipled, and every single one of us should be discipling. Mm-hmm. Followers of Jesus disciples should make disciples. Mm-hmm. So I feel like I always say that. I have a couple of thoughts. Here we go again. I have a couple.
How late were you up last night watching our past episodes?
I just feel like I say the same things over and over. But one, again, just applauding the heart. I would say to you, if you don't already have your head on a swivel, put it on a swivel. If it's on the swivel, keep it there. In other words, look.
Okay. Yeah, I was about to say, what in God's name do you mean by that?
Yes.
Looking to see for some. Okay.
Looking for that type of person. Yeah. Those type of people. Mm-hmm. What you would be looking for most is just people that you think you can learn from. Mm-hmm. I'm talking spiritually, trying to be specific to the question. Who do I think I can learn from? And that does not necessarily mean they have to be older than you, not necessarily, though that could be a benefit, but somebody that might be further down the road, and I would be hunting for them, looking for them. Mm-hmm. I come from this world that like the mentee pursues the mentor. Right. Yep. It is my job to go after you, not my job to sit around and wait on you to come and give me your wisdom. And so a couple of quick thoughts, I guess, that come from a story of my own life is when I first started pastoring our church. I guess we'll make it a story. I first started pastoring our church, and I was participating in this weekly prayer service. It was kind of small little prayer service, happened on Wednesdays. I was bivocational at the time, but when I was participating in these prayer meetings, I was part of my bivocation was Wednesday was like my church day. Mm-hmm. So I would go to these prayer meetings. They lasted an hour. I made great friendships. I mean, some of the guys continue to lead churches, and Billy Almaguer at Awaken City, and Brian Lamoureux at Reverb Church, Walter West at Anastasia. Like, there's just some of those guys that we co-labor in the ministry still to this day. We would pray together in those meetings. And so just showing up to a small group. All right. So in our church, we call them life groups, showing up to these small groups. I started to like look around and like, okay, those three guys I mentioned, by the way, are guys that just became like kind of my people that we're doing life with. One of those was Walter, and I'm going to brag on him a little bit. I'm like this. I see myself as this inexperienced, dumb kid that God has called to lead a church. And then here is this seasoned veteran.
Pro all the way through.
Full of wisdom. Spending this time in relationship with him made me say, like, I'm going to pursue this guy, and I'm going to see if he will be willing to invest into me. So I said, hey, can I take you to lunch, coffee, breakfast, whatever? You tell me what works, and I'll figure out a way to make it work. And so we end up together. out at a coffee shop or something. And I'm like prepared. I got all these questions that I want to ask. And one of them was, would you be willing to be a voice into my life? Like to mentor me, AKA disciple me. And so I say, Pastor West, would you be willing to speak into my, whatever. And he says, on 2 conditions. And I'm like, I will wash your car and mow your grass. No problem. Like I got your back, The first one was the hard one. He's like, I would be honored to be a voice in your life. I really would. He said, but call me Walter. And I'm like, call you Walter? Who am I? You be Josh, I'll be Walter. Yeah. Let's be friends. And I come from you and I.
Yep, 100%.
Bro, if you don't say yes, sir, you get backhanded in the mouth. Like that kind of thing.
100%.
Honor, respect. Plus I was military, it was reinforced, double down on me. That was the hard one. Okay, I will do my best to call you Walter. Walter. It was so hard. It was so hard because I wanted to honor him.
Yeah, 100%.
I saw him a way.
Yeah, 100%.
And then the second one was the easy one. He's like, I'm willing to be a voice into your life only if you're willing to be a voice into mine. Wow. And I'm like, no problem, because I'll never have anything to say. I seriously thought that. I have nothing to say to you. This is easy. 10-4, I'll take it. All right, 2 things that come from that story. One, it's a really nice brag on his humility. Yeah, for sure. 2, I was in pursuit. I saw somebody that I thought had something to offer me, and I had to go and say, would you pour into my life? And then I have continued to cultivate that friendship for all these years. But his humility to say, sure, I'll be a voice in your life, only if you're willing to be a voice in mine. And I'm over there like, who am I? What am I ever going to say to this guy? Because again, of how I saw myself.
Right. Yeah, I get that.
So the point there is that I think anybody can disciple anybody. Now, I do think what you're asking is, hey, I'm looking for somebody that is more seasoned, like I was to Walter. Yeah. I was looking for somebody that could do that thing. So I would say you got to be prayerfully looking for them, identify them, and then pursue them. Yeah. But then also make sure that you're two things. Make sure that you're willing to let anybody be a teacher. Always be a student, and everybody's a teacher. Yeah, everybody, and then just grow by any means necessary. And then I would also say, make sure you also are finding people that you also can pour into, because you have things to offer regardless of how you see yourself. So be like you ever heard the phrase, be a river, not a reservoir? Yeah, don't just take it in. Find a way to pass it through. So anyway, that's my thoughts on that one. It's a super awesome
I love question. That. I think you're dead on. The pursuit, you have to pursue them. It's never going to be the other way, just from my own experience. If you want somebody to speak into your life, you have to be around them. My high school football coach, Coach Allen, used to say this: I run with who shows up.
There you go.
He's like, whoever shows up is who we're running with.
I love it.
And so I kind of have that same mentality, almost to a fault, if that makes sense. It's whoever shows up, I'm running with. Who's going to show up, that's who I'm going to run with. And not that you're against anybody else, but I think that's the same way. If you're looking for a mentor or whatever, like you said, look for it, approach them. Something we have done for years. I've asked you questions. I've come back. Hey, I learned this from John Maxwell. You said this last time. This is how I applied it. This is what I've seen. When you take what someone has spoken to you and say, hey, I've applied it this way, it just shows the value that you took it as, if that makes sense. Yep. But I think the number one thing is you have to pursue it. And you're going to find a lot of people, it's just not going to be them. The amount of people I've went that are really good humans that I've went and sat at a coffee with or sat at lunch with and never pursued anything after, it's countless. But then there's a few that still have that voice into my life. I have a standing 9:00 every Monday morning phone call from someone who has a voice in my life, without a doubt. Yeah. We talk way more now, but we said before, all of these conversations we had them before.
Yeah, for sure.
Between each of me asking you questions, you asking me questions, now we just do it on camera.
Yeah, and I have, so to the person that asked that question, I am actively in pursuit of somebody that I would like to be a voice into my life right now. And, we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
But I will never stop doing that ever.
I probably need to do better.
I just love learning. And to the point of the conversations and the friendships that you and I have, because I very much see us as just peers, man.
Right,
like we're
100%.
just doing this thing together, and our friendship and all the similarities of us and all that stuff makes it super easy to do. But I was in a meeting this morning with somebody saying words that I've gotten from you, that where you sit is what you see, was the advice that I gave. Hey, everyone has a perspective.
Yeah,
and so
100%.
they're going to have beliefs and thoughts based on where they sit. That is what they see. And I'm in real time going like, yeah, that was discipled into me by Trevor. You know what I mean? And I'm offering that to somebody just this morning. Just if you're always the student, everybody's the teacher.
Yeah, 100%. All right, I think we can do one more. And we'll
Let's
just
go,
this will be a
man.
little bit longer for this one so we can
I'm
get through
down.
these. All right. So the last one for this episode. Can you explain more about whatever is bound on earth will be bound in heaven, and whatsoever is loosed on earth will be loosed in heaven?
Again, I thought you had, so we talked about this one a little bit ahead, and I thought you start because
Yeah, so we know that's in Matthew 16 and then in Matthew 18, right? So here's just some points I wrote down on it to try to help you understand it more. It's about operating in alignment with heaven's authority. What's bound on earth is bound in heaven. What's loose on earth is loose in heaven. Operating in alignment with heaven's authority. We don't dictate God's will. We agree with it and declare it on earth. I think sometimes some people maybe have abused this or used it the wrong, or try to use it the wrong way. Maybe they just misunderstood it. Like I have a really bad thing of like, I just give people the benefit of the doubt and they're like, no, they were evil. And I'm like, were they?
right.
You know what I'm saying? Like
I think assuming the best is a good thing.
And I have learned that from you 1000%. Go into stuff assuming the best. So I would do that to a fault there, but it's
Unless you're in traffic. then you always assume the worst.
Opposite. I'm the most chill driver. The other day, for the first time, I had to speed, and I was like, "Who am I?"
Oh, that's fun.
Like anyhow. So
yeah, back to the real point.
We don't dictate God's will. We agree with it. We're agreeing with heaven on earth. And then, so this is like, it's super granular. I don't know if the person asking this wanted it this granular, but here it is. Binding is forbidding. So you can put that in there. What you forbid on earth would be forbid in heaven. So, but really, the structure of that, it tells us, okay, well, if we say it here, then heaven's going to do it. But it's really the opposite, because of what Jesus said, heaven on earth, right? So binding is forbidding, loosing is permitting, in line with God's word. We'll use traffic, for example. If I'm like, this person isn't driving and I bind their engine in Jesus, that is such a ridiculous, example. But you can't use things is not manipulating how you want. It is all in God's will, God's sovereignty. How do you say it? With the preeminence of God in our life, all of that kind of stuff. And then the last thing I wrote was, it's about spiritual authority, not human control.
Again, I think you've a home run to these answers.
Thank you, buddy.
Two.
I did read on those kind. I was like, all right, let me.
That's one of the ones that last night I opened up my Bible and let me just go read a little bit, or whatever. And I 100% agree with that. That if you read it, all right. Prior to that, Jesus is talking about when you have issues with your brother, and then how you go about that, and then you get another brother, and then the church, and all this kind of stuff. And he's talking order.
Yep.
Okay.
100%.
How do you go through this? Then you get that verse right there, whatever's bound and whatever's loosed. And then you get the verse, if any two agree as touching anything, it will be done for them. All right. And that's like the sandwich, right? So the questioned verse is between those things. And oftentimes, and I'm as guilty as anybody for sure, I never intentionally, but still guilty, that we'll just cherry pick a verse. And then that's where you can really spin it into making it kind of what you want it to be, which is reversing the order, like you said. So I could just grab that little verse and be like, whatever I bind on earth, heaven is backing me up.
Right.
Totally the other way.
Correct.
What heaven is, it's almost like all of this is accessible to you from heaven.
Correct.
And if you want to operate in it, heaven is cutting it loose.
Yeah.
But if you're binding it, heaven is not. Oh,
that's a good, I like that.
I actually think that there are times that we, by our own carnality, misunderstanding, that heaven's like, I have this for you. But if you're not going to operate in the order of heaven,
good. I never thought of it like that.
I think you're holding back opportunity that is available to you. But in that context, yes, it is a lot about like just operating in order and authority, which is a thing that people don't like to hear nowadays.
Right.
But authority,
the believer
is
I
real.
mean, I don't remember who coined the phrase in the 70s or 80s. Maybe it was Kenneth Hagin of the authority of the believer.
okay,
Like we have authority,
Yes.
but we sit under authority of Jesus as Lord.
that's right.
So we can't use that authority for selfishness or manipulation. Witchcraft is manipulation. And
Right.
so like you can't use it for that.
Right.
You do it under the authority of Jesus, in the humility of Christ, in his will of heaven and faith.
John Bevere wrote a book many, many years ago. I'm pretty sure the title is called Undercover.
Okay.
And it's about being under the covering of your authorities.
Oh, wow.
And
Okay,
how
yeah.
how
Yeah,
scripturally
that probably wouldn't sell good nowadays.
Right. Now, full disclosure, I did not read the book, but I did a study, like a church study of
Okay.
over the, so I've got familiarity.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, yeah.
So, but the idea is how God does institute authorities. And when we get under our cover, that's the favor of the Lord. It blesses through that right there. That I think is what this is saying, that heaven wants to release all the benefits.
Yeah.
You just have to do it heaven's way.
Right.
And there are ways that we can bind
100%.
what heaven is offering because of our, whatever it is.
I love
deficiencies.
I love the depth of just asking. That's a good question. You know what I'm saying? It's maybe not as I don't know. I just love it. I love the idea of like, hey, what does this mean?
Yeah.
Like those confusing scriptures. And trust me, I don't want to speak for you, but there's times where I look at scriptures, I'm like, what in the world is going on
yes,
here? And then I just got to dig. And that's the same thing with that. But that's really good stuff. You got anything else on this one?
You know, to pony on what you just said there, just the question being asked to us made me go grow.
Yeah, well, 100%.
I went and
I was
opened
like,
my
all right,
Bible.
yes, that's a great point.
Let me better understand this. So thank you. I mean, all the questions, this is fun and I hope it's helpful. I mean, really, we talk about it all the time. As long as this is helping others, we'll keep doing it. And as soon as it's not helpful, we will find something else to do with the time.
Yeah, we will fill it with something else.
That's right.
I can promise you that. All right, next episode, we're going into the next set of questions that you asked. If you have a question, man, DM Church on the Rock or shoot us a message or put it in the comments. We'll get it however which way we'll be able to find it. And I'm sure we won't do another one of these for a couple months, probably at least 2 months for sure. But whenever we do have a bank of them going, and we'll get to them, and we'd love to answer them. Until next time, God bless you guys. We'll talk to you soon.